All right. Hi. Thank you for joining us. My name is Clayton Norman. I am the social media and digital marketing leader here at Indiana University. Thank you for joining us for this special live broadcast today. We've got a great panel here, and we are going to talk about IU's plans to welcome students back to our campus in the fall. We're going to talk about everything you need to know for steps that you need to take to enroll and get ready if you are a student who is planning on attending IU in the fall, or if you're a parent of a student. We're going to cover new student orientation. We're going to talk about all kinds of things about how to navigate your first year at IU. We're also going to talk about information for student resources, talking about housing, some dining, student affairs, anything that you would need to know to get involved and kick off your semester the right way in fall 2020. That's what we're going to be discussing today. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to our panel to start talking. Luke, if you want to talk about who you are and give us a heads up.
Hello, future Hoosiers and Hoosier parents. Hi, my name is Luke Leftwich. I'm the Executive Director at Residential Programs and Services here at Indiana University Bloomington. Since nobody really knows what those titles mean, I thought I'd provide a little context. RPS is the big umbrella that oversees housing, dining, as well as residential life. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on those dimensions.
Lily, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lily Oyerzun. I'm an Associate Director with the Office of First Year Experience Programs. We oversee new student orientation, our weeks of welcome programming that we're going to be doing in August, and Hoosier Experience and support for first year families, first year transfer students to IU. And we're excited to chat today.
All right, Kathy, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Kathy Adams-Reister. I'm the Associate Vice Provost for Student Affairs and Executive Associate Dean of Students. And I work with our student service areas. So a lot of the activities and services your students will utilize outside of the classroom and ways to get involved. So I'll be talking a lot about involvement and some of our other support services for students today. I'm excited to welcome you.
All right, thank you. And Kayla?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kayla Granville Ashalu. I serve as Senior Associate Director of Admissions and specifically look over diversity recruitment and outreach for the Office of Admissions in the university. Pleasure to be here today. I'm here to support any questions that you have about admissions and enrollment, especially if you are thinking about coming to IU in the fall.
Thank you so much, Kayla, and thanks everybody for joining us. If you're just tuning in, we're going to be talking about everything that students and parents need to know about enrolling in fall 2020 here at IU. If you have questions that you want us to answer, drop those in the comments and we're going to be responding to your questions live. We've got about an hour, so we're going to take as many of your questions as we can get to. Also, while we're watching this, we will be posting useful links, resources, and all kinds of other information that you can find in the comments. So make sure that you're checking in on the comments. We're gonna have a lot of links in there that can kind of flesh out the rest of the information that you might have regarding whatever types of questions you have for fall 2020. So I think people are definitely excited. We've got good engagement. We already have the questions are rolling in. So Luke, I think this one is right in your wheelhouse. Mike asks, when will move-in dates be announced?
Move-in dates are being set as we speak. I can give you the preview right now. We have been asked by our health and safety experts to de-densify our move-in process. So it will be over the course of about 10 days. The first move-in date will take place on August 9th. And that will proceed all the way through August 19th. It will be a little bit more regimented than it has traditionally been. We will be asking students to sign up for a particular time. However, sign up is not going to be available to all students at all times. We want to make sure that we have good engagement for our students that are the earlier move-ins. So we will be reserving those times specifically for students that have enrolled in any of the intensive freshman seminar intersession courses. So you might see that as IFS in different places. We will be sending out in the next week to all students who have contracted space within any of our RPS units, an addendum to our contract that acknowledges these change of dates, as well as just some of the changes that have happened here in the new world that we're all living in. Within the context of that addendum to the housing contract, we will have an opening email that addresses all of the different timelines that you might expect for the needs for those of you who are living with us in the fall. One of those will be information about the different time slots or day slots available for move-in. We know many of our out-of-state students, we know many of our students are looking at very limited flights throughout the country and have other concerns or constraints. We hope to, by the end of this week, have that communication out to you so at least you can understand the skeletal structure of the days that you might be eligible for. Sign up, the actual physical sign up will take place after the addendum has been sent to you, as well as signed by you. And we expect that that sign up, the formal sign up, should be available to you in mid-July.
Great. Thank you, Luke. And I think that actually hits a little bit on the next question. Jake asked about when dorm information and roommate assignments will be coming out. So I assume it'll be in a similar timeline.
Yes, so we expect to have to students the week of July 13th. We will start rolling out to all students what building they will be living in, whether they have an agreed upon roommate or not, as well as the rate of that space. So you'll know the price, who you're living with, as well as the building. We will, the week of July 20th, the following week, give you your actual specific room number within that building. However, the week before, July 13th, it will be on a rolling basis, so it may not happen July 13th. We'll be doing it building by building by building, but you'll have that information in hand so you know what the cost is, so you know if you have a roommate or not, and you know what building you're in within which neighborhood.
Great, thank you. So that some of that information will start coming out the week of July 13th, everyone. So next question, Teresa, and I think again, Luke, this one is going to be for you, is about dining halls, and will dining halls be open during the online session from November to February? Teresa's asking, I guess her son is going to be living off campus and wants to use iBucks potentially at the dining halls during that time.
So I'm going to take the opportunity to highlight a couple of different changes in that time frame. So the fall contract will end November 25th, November 25. A student who's in any of our RPS spaces will need to have a petition or an appeal granted in order to stay with us beyond that time frame. So in between the fall and the spring session. That process is being developed right now, and it should be available in mid-September. So students who are currently living with us can appeal or petition to stay with us based on various factors. But ideally, we do want to be de-densifying campus during that time frame. Health officials have advised us as such. To your specific question, the dining halls will indeed be open November 26th through December 20th. December 21st through January 3rd, I believe, whatever that Sunday is. I apologize, I don't have a calendar in front of me. We will have very limited services, probably just convenience store services during that time frame. That is our traditional hall closure during that time. So even students that are petitioned or appealed to live with us through that entire intersession, there will be very limited, if no, options available in that window. We will not have the staff. We will not have the plans during that time frame. So plan accordingly.
Great, thank you, Luke. Let's see here. So Paige has asked, and I think Luke, we were maybe getting away from you for for a second now that you kind of kicked us off. Paige asked, when will we be able to sign up for the winter session classes? And I'm not sure who that one should go to.
I can help address that. So for our new students, you'll be going through advising and course registration for the fall, now through new student orientation. So for those of you who have a reservation, you can check that date on your orientation portal at our website for FYE. Now for your winter session and spring classes, those will be classes that you'll sign up for and advise with your academic advisor during the fall semester. And that date will become available to you in Student Center closer to registration. And so there will be a period of time where you'll be able to register. And on your Student Center account, you'll be able to see when you'll actually be able to register for classes.
Great. Thank you. Let's see here. Ooh, boy, they're really rolling in here. So Paul asked, is there going to be a welcome week on campus before classes start?
So we are to accommodate for our extended days to de-intensify move-in. We are going to be accommodating multiple programming for August. So starting early August 9th with that first move-in date in coordination with an intensive freshman seminar through the start of classes and beyond. So there'll be what we're calling weeks of welcome as our multiple weeks of programming, both in-person, small in-person events and virtual events to make sure that all of our students are safe and everybody has an opportunity to connect with each other, to meet other folks and to explore campus and get to know our resources on campus. We'll also have a few additional ways where students can actually meet other new Hoosiers. And so please stay tuned for those and you'll learn more about those in your new student orientation program.
All right, great. Lily, thank you so much. So Sheila asked, and I think Luke, this one goes back to you. My daughter is new to IU. Although she is not a freshman, she's a graduate student. She's still hoping to live on campus. Is that possible?
So you said graduate student, is that correct?
Correct.
So we still have our application open to new to IU transfers. We are filling in a few spaces that we have available in our unfurnished apartments now that we better understand what our de-densification obligations are to the university. We do have a few spaces that are left in the unfurnished apartments. I would encourage you to email ask-RPS, highlighting your situation, and we'll look and see what kind of inventory we have available that might fit your particular needs. Those spaces are on campus as well. I believe somebody is following us, can put the link again, ask RPS. If you email that place, we can get you, or that site, we can get you information about what opportunities are still available based on our inventory.
Great, thank you, Luke. And you're exactly right. I want to remind everybody that we are going to be dropping lots of resources into the comments. I can tell already just looking at the number of questions that have come in that we're probably not going to get to everybody's during the time that we have here. So there will be lots and lots of resources in the comments. We will try to get to as many of the questions as we can. And I will go ahead and just jump back into it here. And let's see. Is there a plan? This is a question from Karen. So is there a plan for quarantining students who have tested positive for COVID who are living on campus?
Yeah, I can take that one. We have set aside an entire residence hall, our Ashton complex, that has 5 different buildings within the Ashton complex. We have set aside that space. It will be managed by a consortium of stakeholders on campus to make sure that we are properly applying all of the guidance that our environmental health and safety, as well as our public safety and institutional assurance folks who are interfacing with CDC constantly to make sure that we are adhering to all recommendations on quarantining and isolation. For students who are contracted with RPS, there is no charge for that space. That's part of the services that we're providing this year to make sure that we are promoting a health and a safe experience here on campus. So again, we will have procedures set up for that. And we will be developing the processes for how students utilize that space. For instance, if I feel like I need to be, I've been exposed and I need to be tested, what's the requirements for my roommate? And we're developing all of those processes so that it's crystal clear what it looks like if a student should fall ill, so that we can get them the support necessary to get better and minimize impact on the community as a whole. But yes, we're absolutely setting aside an entire residence hall, almost 600 spaces, to be prepared for what could potentially happen, but we're doing everything we can to mitigate negative exposure and have the healthiest and safest fall we possibly can.
Great, thanks, Luke. And of course, the health and safety of the entire IU community is always at the forefront of our thinking in terms of how we arrange things, and definitely have put a lot of thought into making sure that things will be safe for everyone on campus in the fall. Let's see here if we can jump into another one. This is a question, and maybe this goes to Lily, although I'm not sure. It's a question about graduate programs conducting on-site orientations. And I'm not sure if anyone here can speak to that.
That's going to be up to each of those grad programs. So all of our graduate students will be oriented with their specific program. And so that's something that I would suggest coordinating with and contacting your program coordinator. And I'm sure they're releasing those details. And they're also looking to figure out what are the guidelines to make sure that everybody is safe through that process. But that communication will come straight from that program.
Great, thank you. So Grant had a question about if students will have the option to take classes completely online this fall, depending on what their modality for their schedule is. And
You want me to try and take that one, Lily?
Kathy, yeah, I think that would be
okay. So I think the answer is it depends. I think there will be classes available for students to take classes fully online. I think each student will need to work with their academic area, their school and their advisors to ensure that they're taking what helps them proceed with their course plans. So I think it's possible, yes, there will be plenty of online options, but you need to make sure that that fits in your academic program as part of that by talking with your advisor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's see what we have here. So this Maggie is asking if students are allowed to sign up for August options before meeting with their advisors so that they don't get locked out. I don't know if that's referring to classes.
So I'll attempt to answer this question, and if there's follow-ups, happy to address those. All of our students, as they're coming through, for new students, will have an opportunity to enroll for classes that they're what they need for their program, or options that they're exploring academically, regardless of if you do advising now in June, July, or in August. In terms of housing, Luke, I don't know if you want to address if a student's coming through before they enroll in classes.
Yeah, we traditionally we've been able to offer early move-in. Unfortunately, that's not something that we're going to be able to offer because we are so early with our de-densified move-in August 9th. That being said, there are a couple of units on campus. So if there are folks that are out there that are a little bit worried who are overseas, we're working with the Office of OIS, Office of International Student Services, to try to create solutions. We've not been given clear guidance yet on what the necessary protocols are for quarantining if you enter the States as an international student, or if you enter the States as a domestic student who perhaps was studying abroad, whatever that might be. we will adhere to whatever those protocols are. And that's why we've set aside such ample space to be able to adapt to whatever recommendations are provided to us, so that if we do need to provide that time frame of early quarantine before you can go to your permanent assignment, that's all been worked into our plans, so that we're nimble enough that if the federal government or any of our leadership changes their minds, that we're able to pivot to make sure that, again, we're promoting health and safety.
Okay. And Luke, another couple of ones that have come in that I think would fall under your purview are when students move into like a double room that's going to be single occupancy now. There's been a couple of questions about whether there will be still 2 beds and dressers and things like that in that room, or how should parents and students sort of plan for that. And then I've also seen a couple of times coming in if family members or how many family members will be able to assist with move-in on the move-in dates.
So this is the reason that we have to stay nimble. We haven't been given clear guidelines on what our visitor policy is going to be within the res halls. The university is working feverishly even on the visitor policy to the physical campus. And then what are the regulations for those folks who are on campus? Do they have the same expectations for wearing masks, et cetera? So until there's 100% clarity on there, we're going to try to protect students from themselves a little bit. For any rooms that have been changed physically, that were doubles, that are now singles, we are now removing the beds from that space. We will keep the other furniture in that space. In many buildings, that furniture is affixed. It's actually attached to the wall or the ground, depending on the facility. However, our beds are mobile, and we will be moving that out. So we're doing that. Finding storage for about 2,500 beds is not an easy thing to do in Bloomington, Indiana. So we're working through that process as we speak, but we do expect that furniture in that space, other than the bed, will be there for 2, even if it's only occupied with 1.
Great, thank you. Another couple of questions that have come in that I think we should probably just touch on again because they're recurring is, Luke, can you talk about the dining hall situation again? And then specifically, Jeffrey asked, how will you be able to meet the needs of students with food allergies if meals are not being made to order?
So meals will indeed be being made to order. We have been given guidance from the state of Indiana that we will not be able to offer a dining experience, in the sense that our dining halls cannot be open for the actual consumption of that food. That being said, the dining courts will still be utilized for how we deliver our food. We are setting up all of our dining courts to where students can pre-order on their phone. It will be a tighter menu, absolutely. We will not be able to offer the breadth of food that we have traditionally been able to offer. So we are sacrificing a little bit of choice with speed, so that students can queue up in a de-densified fashion. We are completely augmenting the physical space of all of our dining courts, so that there will be a massive operation of students who will check in. If they pre-ordered their food, you'll see a table with your name and the number of the order that you ultimately were assigned. We will have all of our cashiers will be there in safety attire, and they will be helping you learn about the new protocols associated with our new way of delivering food. It will all be takeout options. Again, you can do this on your mobile app via Grubhub is one way to do it. You can also come and order on site, and we will have contactless payment available on site. It will be a little longer of a queue, but we will have a separate queue available for that in all of the dining courts. For those who do have food allergies or who have other constraints with foods, we have hired and have a dietitian on site with our dining team that we would encourage you to connect with. For our team that's monitoring here, for Pam and others, if you could please put that dietitian information in in the chat that will help people connect and be able to learn about the different options that we do have available. For those of you who have not necessarily food allergies, but specific food choice that you're looking for, we have this wonderful blessing that Collins is now going to be available to us this year. It was a residence hall we expected to be offline for renovation. Unfortunately, we couldn't move for that renovation. However, we do now have an extra available dining court that was going to be offline. And it's given us the opportunity with a very creative group of food professionals, as well as a residence hall full of people that are really down to experiment in going to a completely plant-based menu in that facility. So we are experimenting with some new recipes as we speak, so that we can build this in different ways. So rest assured there will be options. Safety, again, is number one. All of our dining staff will have their temperature checked prior to their shifts. We will have food grade gloves, masks, and PPE available to all of our staff so that we make sure that everybody prepping your food is in a good state of health. We are moving away from any, again, I want to state categorically, we're moving to contactless payments, and we're creating lots of different avenues, whether that's through Crimson cards, which is your ID, whether that's through credit cards, your meal plans, other ways, so that we know that that is an imposition, but that is for the safety of all individuals and for the convenience and speed to be able to deliver the amount of meals we want to deliver per day. But again, getting back to the core of your question, will there be options for those that have strict dietary restrictions? Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. Next question is from Jeffrey, and I think this one goes to Lily. Jeffrey's asking about how the virtual orientation will be staged, held, and what platforms that will be conducted on.
Yeah, so I'll talk first about our student orientation experience, because we do have both a student and a family experience. For our students coming through new student orientation, all of our students would have made their reservation through the orientation portal on our website, and I'm sure that's being dropped in that link. It's the orientation portal, and that is the initial place where students will get their information about which academic unit they are in, what date they're going to be advising, and then 5 days prior to that advising appointment, they'll see on that same place what the Zoom link is. So all of our students will be doing their advising and course registration through Zoom. Most of them are one-on-one with an academic advisor. Now, to prepare for that advising appointment, and most of our online orientation will be taking place on Canvas. Our Canvas is broken up into 3 parts. The first part is the most important to make sure that each student is prepared for their advising appointment. A lot of units have advising passes. All of these are built and customized to that program or to that area of study. So making sure that you complete that and really review that information so that you're prepared. Part 1 will cover an overview of academics as well as finances, and making sure that some items are done before your advising appointment so that you're as prepared as possible for that advising appointment. Part 2 is really focused on those campus resources that our students need to use and can use and should take full advantage of, including how to get involved or learning about our sorority and fraternity life, transportation. We've got some updates on dining and housing there as well, and kind of how to really use those resources. And part 3 will provide some updates on what we're expecting for fall 2020. So in terms of the classroom experience and the different modes of instruction, we'll provide links to housing and move-in information as those are released, as well as dining, and how to really make the most out of your first year experience with us at IU. Now that's for the students. You also have students an opportunity to connect and meet new students through your Cream and Crimson communities. All of that information is released via Canvas. We actually have a few opportunities where students can actually hang out and get to know each other. Our staff, our orientation team is actually making calls to all of our students. So be on a lookout for a phone call coming your way. And I hope you get to connect with students in those student groups. It's a great opportunity to get to know other new students and also connect with current students and ask what student life experience looks like here. A few educational experiences for students, one of which we have virtual student events throughout the summer, so you can learn a little bit more about campus resources. And we have a full parent experience for parents and family members, all on our website. It's within our family sessions on our website. There are videos that you can watch at your own pace and information you can absorb, as well as joining on different live Q&As to get to know a little bit more about specific things to make sure that as a parent or family member, you're as informed and prepared for this transition for your student, because you are such an integral part to it all. All of that is on our website, and just keep an eye out for your emails, and we'll be sending you updates through there as well.
Great. Thanks, Lily. Another thing that has popped up in a couple of different questions, and I think Kathy, this one can go to you, is about Greek life and whether the fraternities and sororities will be having rush activities in the fall, and whether the housing arrangements will be similar in the Greek houses.
Sure. So for fraternities and sororities, we will have rush recruitment in the fall. So typically our freshmen men and any other sophomores, juniors, anyone else beyond a freshman go through recruitment in the fall. For our incoming freshman women, the first time you're allowed to go through recruitment and join a sorority, it actually is at the end of fall, beginning of spring. So we have what some campuses refer to as a deferred recruitment for our women that will start. You have to have at least one semester of college in order to go through our fall recruitment. So we are still working on what exactly those look like. For our IFC men, there will be recruitment, and they're planning both, if things have to happen virtually due to size, and options of smaller group gatherings as well. So I believe that I shared the contact with getting involved with sororities and fraternities. So hopefully that can pop up, and you would link to, for fraternities, the Interfraternity Council, for sororities to the Panhellenic Association. We also have our multicultural Greek organizations, and our National Panhellenic, our historically African-American fraternities and sororities, and all of them will plan some form of recruitment or intake and information sessions in the fall, and you can visit each of their websites for details. They may not be complete yet, because I know we're still working on what those plans look like for the students. For the women, there is a registration date that happens, I believe that's in November, and then they will also have events. Right now it's planned to have several rounds of those events happening virtually, with potentially some in-person smaller group sessions that would happen in the spring once classes are back physically in session on campus. So recruitment will still happen, and rush will still happen. It will probably look a little different. So living in the houses, so with our facilities, we are working with them to follow very similar guidelines to what our residential programs and services is doing for housing for students. So we actually just had a meeting about 2 weeks ago with the people who oversee the housing, because they're all privately owned houses, for the Greek organizations, to talk about what those kinds of guidance and standards and health standards should look like. So they are all in the process of making necessary adjustments for that, and determining how that's going to work for their individual facilities, because all the facilities are a little bit different. So there will potentially be, I know sometimes some of our freshmen will move into fraternities or sororities, and that's at the grace of residential programs and services generally releasing them from a contract if that's an option. So it's kind of on a case-by-case basis. But with the facilities, we are giving them guidance and suggestions. You need to know that they're not university-owned facilities. So, what you see in the residence hall may not be exactly what you see in the private facilities, but we're definitely making suggestions and recommendations as to what they need to do, and some of the standards as far as contact tracing if someone is sick, and quarantine and isolation, and those kinds of things will also be required around safety areas.
Great, thank you. I think that's super helpful. And we will definitely post those links in the comments to all kinds of information about Greek life and how to get involved and those types of different organizations. And I think that, yes, that's very helpful. What's next? Sorry, they are really rolling in. So there are quite a few questions about advising appointments, questions about whether if someone's son, for example, is advising appointment isn't until late July, if that person will still have, if that student will still have the option to enroll in in-person classes, or if online class or in-person classes will be filled up by then. I'm not exactly sure who should handle that. I don't know if that one is you, Kathy, or.
I can start it. And
I'm going to defer to Lily.
Okay.
thanks, Kathy. So students will have as full of a schedule for whatever their academic program or interests are. And so they'll work with their advisor to find the best classes that suit their needs and their program, no matter at what point that they are going through advising and course registration. So no matter if you're the last day in July or in August, you will have classes that work for you.
All right, great. Nice and simple answer. Also, I know this has also come up a few more times in terms of when people will start to be notified about moving dates and other information related to that. Luke, do you want to just remind people on the timeline for when those updates will go out? Because I know that's one that continues to pop up.
Sure. Well, we'll go back through. I'll try to make it quick and easy like Lily does, but I'm a little more long-winded. So later this week, we expect to be communicating with every contracted student the addendum to our contract that acknowledges the new dates for what the fall semester will look like, which will go from August 9th through November 25th. Within that communication, we will also have information on what the move-in will look like as part of the de-densification efforts of that very, very massive process of moving in almost 13,000 students in a regular year. We are doing that over the course of about 10 days. So about August 9th through, not about, actually August 9th through August 19th. Students will not be able to attend any day of their convenience for the move-in. They will have to register for a specific move-in time. Move-in times will be limited depending on what the student might be doing in the fall semester. For instance, if the student is engaged and enrolled in one of the intensive freshman seminar courses, the intersessions that are happening August 10th through 24th, I believe, there's different sessions within there, then they would have priority for move-in. So we are reserving those spots for August 9th and 10th for those that will be actually doing classes when they get here. We will be reserving some of the spots for the, maybe we'll call it about a 4-hour range, but it's Indiana and contiguous states where people might want to move in and then go home. So they might want to get their room set up and then go home after. So we'll have different information for what days might work for you. Again, earlier I noted a lot of our out-of-state students have a lot of consternation around the very limited flight schedules for the various airlines throughout the country. We understand that. That's why we're trying to give you the skeleton of what days you would be eligible for move-in days so that you can identify what works for you. The actual move-in sign-up is probably not going to be available till mid-July as we get that architecture built. Because we need to know all of the other things that you're doing as a student to be able to get that set up properly. It is a very regimented process. Students will have a centralized check-in. It will likely be at the athletics facilities, where we'll also be giving you the other items associated with your move-in, since we had to execute a digital summer orientation. You don't have your IDs yet. So we're going to be giving you that as part of the process, as well as many other pieces of information necessary for you to have success in the fall. And we're going to show you how to order food that day. And we're working with our dining team so that you and your parents can order food and show you exactly how that application works so that you can see how our well-oiled machine in dining works. So it's going to be a very eventful, tiring, fun day, but that great experience that parents probably remember and move in. It's got to be a little bit different, just so that we can promote health and safety. Just to finish out the timeline, for those of you that might have joined us a little late, July 13th, we will start rolling out building assignments, whether you have a roommate or not, that's agreed upon within that, as well as your rate. So there's lots and lots of questions on how much do the various rooms cost, because we provided ranges. That will be available to you July 13th that week. So it will take a couple days for us to get that all taken care of. So please give us a little bit of leeway on that, but we will get that out the week of July 13th. July 20th, we will start getting out your specific room number within the building. So you will know that July 20th or a few days after that, but we will get that assignment to you. Again, thank you for your patience. This has been an unbelievably challenging process to redo every single way of thinking that we have. And we still are in the process of getting our buildings ready. I know I saw lots of questions on what does it look like? The buildings even look different. If you walk into your center desk, you're going to see there's plexiglass covers, there's all sorts of signage that's going to tell you specifically where you can and can't be. We will be much tighter on security. We're installing plexiglass in between every sink in the washroom stations of the community bathrooms, and soap in every single station. The water stations on your floors have to all be augmented to go a little bit higher so that we can make sure nobody's really getting down into the water fountains and into the hydration station. So there's just tons of work being done to promote safety. And to do that, we are taking a little bit of extra time, and we do absolutely appreciate your patience as we've been doing this with not much staff, because we've been trying to promote health and safety for all of our staff and faculty as well. So again, I just want to say thank you to all of you for your patience as we work this out to execute a fall.
Thanks, Luke. And definitely, I think we're all appreciative of that. It is certainly not the way that anybody anticipated this summer, semester, or fall looking like. So definitely right there with you. I think this next question.
Clayton, I think you muted yourself.
Yep, you're right. Thank you for that. I think this next question goes to Kayla, and it is about SAT and ACT scores. Is IU waiving SAT and ACT scores for students coming in this fall?
So actually, prior to COVID, IU Bloomington and the IU system in general had voted and made the decision that we are going to be test optional, not only for the fall, but moving forward as an institution or institutions. So we're very excited to be able to provide that opportunity. It certainly is paying off in our benefits, since students are not going to perhaps have as many opportunities to test over the summer and fall. But certainly, if your student has a test score and you want to send that information to us as you feel it gives us more information about who you are academically, we will accept those test scores. In addition to being test optional, we are also self-reported tests. So you'll be able to put that information directly into your application and then send your official scores once you have that information available to you. Additionally, we have a couple of other opportunities that we're rolling out and other announcements regarding test optional and how we're going to move forward with that. So I just strongly encourage all of my students and families who are considering our test optional process to definitely check the admissions website over the next few months. Certainly the application for admission will go live August 1st. And we are doing our best to make sure that we have all of the information for students to make the best and informed decision about test optional or submitting tests to us as possible. One thing we do know with test optional are that students will still be considered for all of the opportunities, or as many opportunities as any student who submitted tests. There are some caveats for students who some caveats in students who cannot submit test optional. So for example, student athletes, and that's just because it's an NCAA regulation. But again, that information is available on the admissions website, and there is more to come. So certainly check that website, check with your admissions director. Those links I'm sure are being populated there as well, but you can find your specific director under the Meet Your Counselor section of the admissions website.
Great, thank you. I think that's all super useful. And we will definitely make sure to get some of those links in the comments. And certainly the rest of IU social media accounts and the admissions social media accounts will be promoting that information as it is added to the website. So that'll be distributed pretty quickly. Just a shout out to the RPS team from Shivani. Shivani says, thank you for describing the extra measures you're taking around cleanliness and safety. So, I know that people appreciate the thought and effort that's going into that. Another question about on campus, Kristen asked a little while ago if freshmen who don't feel comfortable living in the dorms will be able to live off campus in the fall.
Yes, that is something that my team said to make sure to bring up, and I'm so glad that you were kind enough to write that note to us, Kristen. We do have approval from leadership at IU to exempt students who are in their first year who are not comfortable living on campus for concerns around COVID. They do need to let us know through the exemption process. You can do that through the one application, and we do need to know where you live, though, because we are still responsible for you in some way, shape, or form. So please do help us find where you are choosing to live if you're not with us. However, you do need to again let us know that you are requesting exemption because of COVID fears, and we will grant that. So please do take care of that process so that we know that that is your preference.
Awesome. Thank you, Luke. Another question that I think that we definitely need to try to address. Morgan asked, what is IU doing given the recent events around the country, doing to help provide a safe and welcoming environment for minority students on campus when they come to go to school here?
I'll take that question.
Okay.
Well, actually, Kathy, go ahead and start.
I'll start, maybe Kayla, if you want to follow up. So I think some of the things that we're doing and some of the initiatives within the Division of Student Affairs are, so one, we are providing support and resources to students. So we have a bias incident reporting system. So if a student experiences something that they feel like was an act of racism or discrimination or harassment or something of that sort, they can report it to the Dean of Students office. And what we will do is reach out to the student, find out more information, and then go from there based on what they reported to help provide support and address issues if it's coming from another student or depending on what the circumstances are. So that's been something that we've had ongoing as part of our office. If it's something that falls into a potential code of conduct violation, then we would also involve our Office of Student Conduct as part of that process. The other side of that is we also want to help do some education on that. So I know this is we have a group of student leaders who also have been talking about how do we, especially in the fall, come back and as student leaders, help encourage our fellow community members to uphold the values of inclusiveness and diversity that we value as part of IU. So we're also working on some educational and programming events that will have to be adapted a little bit given having smaller groups and things like that. But so those are some of the things that we're moving forward in the fall. And Kayla, do you want to add?
Absolutely. And I second everything that you said, Kathy, and providing all of those resources. I think the biggest thing that students, certainly as a Black woman working at IU, living in Indiana, I feel very safe on campus, but I also know that there are student experiences where there have been different challenges. I think the biggest thing is staying vigilant. If you see something, say something, support your fellow students, making sure, that whole community of care, that culture of care, that Hoosier hospitality that extends into making sure that people are being taken care of and supported whichever direction that they may choose. We have had certainly peaceful protests on our campus. There are staff and faculty on this campus who are here to support you. We want you to communicate with us if there should ever be a problem using the resources that Kathy just mentioned. But we cannot do anything if you don't tell us. So again, please let us know, please report it so that we can continue to support you and make you feel safe on this campus as best as we can.
And I would add there that we also have some great resources, and I didn't provide a link for this, but someone can probably put it up. Our cultural identity-based centers, I think for our students of color and our LGBTQ plus students. So there are some very great resources and communities, I think, to support students based on where they are identity-wise and where they feel like they want kind of some more support, and to find others who have similar kind of backgrounds and experiences and things like that. So I think we also have some great support resources on campus to help students also find and develop a community where they feel safe. And I know IU is a big place, and it's hard to think of coming to a community of 43,000 people and thinking, being nervous about that to begin with, much less being a person of color coming to that community. So I think there's also some great resources on campus to help provide ongoing support.
Great, thank you. And we will absolutely put some links to those cultural centers and some of the other resources from Student Affairs, the bias incident reporting link in the comments there, so people can take a look at that and just see, what is available if you ever did need to start that process. So I think that's really helpful. Let's see, another question about housing assignments. Once we have housing assignments, Luke, will families be able to ship items to the dorm to be held for their student if they haven't moved in right then? And when could that start?
Unfortunately, we're not able to fully offer students being able to ship their entire life with them. You'd be surprised, some do. We do have the ability to take in packages from Amazon and others, but we do have a finite amount of space available to us, a finite amount of people to distribute them, and quite frankly, when you have 43,000 people come to campus, quite frequently mail doesn't necessarily, those big packages sometimes don't get to the right places. So it is a risk to you as well. So we don't encourage that. We can take packages. You will have the mail available to you based on your residence hall assignment, but that is not something that we recommend for the approach for move-in. Your residence halls come furnished with ample amount of storage space, as well as dressers in most of our spaces, depending on where you're assigned. But do check and see, once you've got an assignment, what you have available to you. It's been my experience that students traditionally look at that square footage and assume that there's a lot more that they can put into that space as opposed to a lot less. So it might be an opportunity to think about what you really do need within that space. We certainly want you to be comfortable. That's not what I'm saying at all, but we want to make sure that we're able to deliver on those promises.
Great.
Can I add something to that? I would say Bloomington has some of the stores where you can go purchase stuff. So if you look at our local shopping area, and some of them have online order programs where you can order it and pick it up at the store as well. So I would take advantage of that, especially. I know it's harder for people traveling. I'm putting my old parent hat on my head, but for people traveling across the country, it's harder when you're flying to think about, oh, what am I going to do about my comforter for my bed, or something like that. So there are some stores here that you would be able to do either their buy online and pick up in the store type program. So I would definitely look and see what you have here as well to help supplement your ability to get things here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy.
Great. Thank you, guys. Here's a question from Kathy, and I think that this could speak to a lot of folks here. But I'm concerned about my freshmen being lonely and not making friends because of the safety protocols and isolation. So will the rec centers be open? And I know that we don't have anybody here from rec sports here. But what about socializing? What about that sort of social aspect of campus? Maybe speak to that.
So I think that's a concern for any incoming student, especially if you have a student who's not quite as outgoing or quieter. And I think it'll be a particular challenge this next year. So I know in particular, if your student's living on campus in a residence hall, there's going to be a lot of effort made for students to be able to connect with each other. It may not be in the traditional ways we see. So you aren't going to all go down to the floor lounge and sit around talking all night because we want physical distancing and things like that happening. But I know RPS is really working hard on ways to help connect and engage students. We're also doing that through our Center for our Student Involvement and Leadership Center, looking at how do we work with our student organizations to provide opportunities for students to connect. And some of those will still be virtual opportunities. I know I've seen some different academic schools and programs are doing things like mentor buddies and things like that. So we're all trying to get really creative to help create those connections, knowing that it's going to be harder. But as a parent or family member of a student, you might need to really give your student an extra push on how to do that. I would also say, encouraging your student to connect with some of the resources. We'll have a student involvement, the Student Involvement and Leadership Center has a student organization club fair that will happen in some aspect in the fall. Might be more virtual. I don't know that we're going to have like an in-person come to a tabling event because of physical distancing, but we'll have different ways for students to connect to student organizations as well to get involved. So I think as a parent, it's probably going to take a little bit of coaching and coaxing if your student is a little bit not used to being as outgoing to do those things. But we're happy to help. And if you ever have concerns about that, you can always call the Dean of Students office and we can help guide you through what resources we're aware of, or the Student Involvement and Leadership Center.
And I want to just plug in that our office will be hosting small group connections, what we're calling Crimson Connections for first year new students and transfer students to actually just informally get to know other people with similar interests. And so we'll be releasing more information in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and thank you both for that. I will also just add that especially for incoming students, the IU social media handles have a lot of information about what's going on with different student organizations, news and updates about what you can find. So certainly the IU Bloomington Instagram account, this Facebook page will have lots of information about that. We also have a Twitter account that's at IU Bloomington, and also all of the IU admissions accounts and first year experience social media accounts. We'll put all of the links to those accounts in the comments here so that everyone can find them. And those will have lots of information and very up-to-date information about events, virtual ways to connect, and even when and if that's possible, in-person types of things. So we've only got a couple of minutes left here, maybe time for one more question. Certainly for anyone who has tuned in, there are lots and lots and lots of great resources, links, and all kinds of information in the comments. So please make sure that you scroll through those. We'll also be going through and trying to respond to questions that have been coming in here. There's just really a lot of good information and links to find pretty much any of the information to questions that you might have. So with that, I will end it with one last question, and this is about whether students are going to be tested for COVID before they arrive on campus or when they arrive on campus. And I don't know if that's a Luke question or a Lily question.
I can tell you what we know at the moment. What we know at the moment is that we're exploring every possible way that we can institute that into our overall health and safety regime. The current school of thought is that we have quarantine and isolation space available if there are students that are entering from places of concern, and that we will utilize that if we need to. There will certainly be testing with our IU Health partners as students are entering and exiting into out of that space. Will we be testing every student at every corner of the experience here on campus? The school of thought at the moment is that that is not an effective method of ultimately keeping the community safe. There will be some form of testing if there are students that are exhibiting symptoms, and we again have a contract with our partners at IU Health to be able to conduct those for student, faculty, and staff when appropriate. How that will play out exactly is still being determined by IU leadership. I can tell you specifically in the res halls, as of right now, that is, we are not holding space aside. There's been a lot of questions I've seen come across. Are we holding space aside for testing in the res halls as they come home each night? That is not going to be part of the experience at Indiana University Bloomington. It's certainly not in the res halls.
Can I add something too? So, and I don't know if this, I'm guessing this hasn't been pushed out to incoming freshmen, but one of the things is there is a, like a student commitment we're asking students to sign. And as part of that, we're asking them to do some self-monitoring when they come here. So one of the things as a parent or family member, I would make sure they come with is a thermometer, that they know how to work. Because one of the ways that they're gonna kind of self-monitor themselves, we're asking them to take their temperature every day. So that if they have a rise in their temperature, that should be their first clue that perhaps they shouldn't be going to class and they should call the health center and start enacting that, which might end up then putting them in testing. So there's some things that we really need students to do, and that self-monitoring is really important as part of that. So, and I get, it looks like they're getting a weekly email that will include the student commitment form. So that should be something that's coming out. But that's probably the first front line of some of the pre-test stuff. So if a student thinks that they're sick or they have a fever, then that would be a clue to get that they probably need to contact campus health or their health provider and do some testing.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Kathy. I think that's all super helpful and hopefully sets people's mind at ease a little bit. I see a note here from Luke real quick that he had one thing that he forgot to mention. So I'll throw it over to him real quick and then we will wrap this up.
One of our questions earlier in the session from a grad student about housing available here. I neglected to mention that our wonderful colleagues over at the Indiana Memorial Union are converting the Union hotel space, the Biddle hotel space, for student housing for this year. And they are, that's going to be an experience catering sophomore, juniors, seniors, grad students, guest housing for visiting faculty members. It's going to be a little bit more of a mature audience there, not necessarily for the freshman experience. However, there's single spaces that are available over there. Their website is live. If we could add that to the group of links on the side, and that could be the right fit for that question earlier. And I apologize that I forgot to mention that, because I know that that could be a really cool center of campus experience that just might be the right fit for you.
Great. All right, thank you so much. Thank you everyone who put questions into the comments. We really appreciate and value those comments. We are going to be going back through and trying to make sure that we respond with resources that you can access to try to answer as many of those questions as we can. Thank you so much to all of our panelists, Kayla and Kathy and Luke and Lily. Really appreciate it. These are always a lot of fun. So thank you for joining us to share your expertise and knowledge. And I know that we're all working really hard to do the best we can for our students when they come back. And really the goal is that everybody has a healthy, happy, safe, and successful fall 2020. So thank you so much for your work to ensure that that's happening. And with that, we will go ahead and sign off on this live broadcast.
Are we still?